call the meeting to order. If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. What, Mary? Oh, sorry. Roll call, Sandy?
Councilmember Stacy Green.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Green.
Here.
Councilmember Bob Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Ken Palfini.
Here.
Mayor Susan Tabulero.
Here. Thank you. Okay, now is the time for anybody to speak of something that's not on the agenda. Oh, okay. Hi, Richard. Oh, name and address, please.
Richard Dinges, 34 Main Street, Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center for Weed. Just to kind of give you an update, this particular month we've had 438 signed-in visitors at the center since June. The Beautification Committee is working on a plan to improve the aesthetics of the downtown. We'll have a plan in probably the next few weeks that we'll have submitted to City Council. And we'll have it probably have a meeting and have you there to discuss your feelings about what we're going to be doing for the downtown area. The Chamber is moving forward on a plan to refurbish the arch, get it relit, repainted. We're hoping to have that by Christmas. We're waiting right now to receive all the materials for the project, and then we'll submit a schedule to the city to let you know how we're going to proceed with this. So hopefully we'll have that all done by Christmas. The Chinese auction, as you know, has been canceled. For this year, we're going to be setting a new date for the 2021 year. So that'll be coming up probably at the beginning of January. And the Chamber's planning a trunk or treat, Monster Mash in downtown Weed. It's a Halloween night. We're requesting a road closure, but it's for the kids of the area, and we're hoping to maybe have a parade to go through town, and we'll be on the sidelines handing out candy to the kids. So we're going to try to keep this all within the COVID restraints. Okay? Thank you.
I have a
Question, Richard?
Yes.
Do you happen to know how many, you said you had 438 people sign in?
Yes.
Do you know what, compared to last year, did you happen to?
That's a good question, Bob.
Actually, it's almost doubled.
It's almost up.
It almost doubled because we've had so many in the last couple months. We've had visitors all the way from a lot of people from Los Angeles, San Diego. Not so many from the Bay Area, surprisingly.
What's the number one question? They come in to,
What do we do here?
Bob, microphone.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically what we do is we send them to all the areas they can visit around here. We try to keep them as close to town as possible. But when all the hotels are filled up and all the campsites are filled up, it's kind of hard to do that. Right now, there isn't a campsite to be had anywhere in this county. We've had campers come in and they don't know where to go. I know that Hilo is filled up. The McLeod is filled up. The campsites throughout the area and up in Wairika are all filled up, and they're filled up through October. So people are coming up and they're staying up, and most of them are in trailers, which is surprising. But
Great, thank you.
okay.
I have a question for you too. So I was not aware that Chinese auction has canceled. So I need to cancel your reservations.
Yes.
And I guess I heard somewhere along the line that it was going to be a virtual one, which I thought was kind of cool, but.
Well, we tried to look at that real closely, and we found that other areas that had a virtual auction didn't work too well. Yeah, they kind of failed. So we had one lady that purchased about $400 worth of auction tickets and ended up with all the stuff because nobody bid against her. So I thought that was kind of funny. We didn't want to end up with that. So we thought by just changing the date and possibly having it in March or April might be better. Yeah, right.
Mayor, I have a suggestion maybe to Richard.
Sure.
The Resource Center does Oktoberfest or whatever
Yes.
they call it up there. I don't know if that's going to be
I don't
pulled
think it's
off
gonna
this
happen.
year, but
As
there
far as
could
I
be a
know.
manpower issue there with Resource Center might want to help.
Well, we're talking with Ms. Herr right now.
Oh, okay,
And
great.
so we're going to try to put it together so their crew
Perfect.
can help us do this. So we got to decorate the trunks, and then you open it up, and then you hand out the candy from the trunks. So we'll all be dressed up. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I don't know how that could get pulled off this year. No, it's all in the gym. It's all small. Yeah. But they have lots of decorations.
Okay.
It could be fun.
Thank you.
Richard, you play your position well. Thank you. It's really great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else that has something to comment that is not on the agenda? Okay, we will move on to council member announcements, meeting reports and comments. Ken, do you have anything?
Well, this month I do have a small amount. I did go to the C2C, the Collier Information and Interpretive Center board meeting. We have lost some board members due to illness or whatever. And we also did a new agreement with the state of California regarding the whole site. So I didn't know it, but there was a 20-year contract on that site, which 20 years rolls by really quick. We need to remember that. I also went to a resource center, not on behalf of the city, but I did come up with one of the big things for our city is the census. We're not quite doing our job. I think we have about 50-some%. I would like to remind anybody that's in listening territory that every person that does not sign up with the census cost Siskiyou County $1,000 per person. So actually it's per 10 years. But if right now there's over 16,000 people roughly that have not done the census, and I'm not going to sit and do the math, but it's quite a bit of money. I think $16 million, and our county can use it because whatever the county uses comes our way too. So I would make sure that everybody is aware of the census and remind 3 people if you can. If you haven't done it, you can do it online. You can call the resource center and get information. You can do a lot of things. Oh, and the last thing I want to give a shout out to my mom and dad. 70 years. Wow. Yes, so.
Good for them. Wow, that's pretty impressive, huh?
They were 3 when they got married.
Yeah. And you're 53?
He's not the old.
Bob?
I don't have anything this month, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Kim?
I have some, what I want to call rebuttal and clarifications to a recent newspaper article. First off, volunteers. The city council positions are paid positions, so if elected, this person wants to be a volunteer. No pay. Employees. On April 1st of 2020, the city budget would not have covered the cost of the payroll for that month, for the month of May, let alone for the end of the fiscal year. Nobody has been fired, nor has anybody's wages been cut. There have been 2 layoffs in the finance department. Furloughs were not forced. Department heads made the decision to avoid additional layoffs by taking the furlough. Each city employee, including the police, the fire, and the council, all took a 10% reduction in pay. The city needs to tighten its belt. Well, the budget shortfall has forced the city to tighten its belt in the way of furloughs. So we did it. There are no pending capital improvement projects slated right now. The road projects on North Davis and Vista Drive are grant-funded projects. The community swimming pool does not belong to the city, it belongs to the rec district. Southweed, the conference center landowner, not the city, chose to cancel that project. The owner of the 5-star RV property continues to communicate with the city on what they're doing right now and what they have planned for the future. The Love's Truck Stop is tied up in litigation at the appeals court by the Haven Ranch community right now, so there's nothing we can do until that's done. We all know that we need another sit-down restaurant in Weed, but COVID-19 isn't helping anybody want to open a business right now. Cannabis. There were 2 conditional use permits and an MOU granted without city input or knowledge. Development agreement will protect the city as well as the developer, and investors have given verbal approvals and will follow with written commitments as soon as the development deal is approved by the city. The sales taxes. This was originally suggested as a partial tax to help fund the rec department and the Wainema Cemetery districts. In order to do that, I did some research with the county in our tax rolls. Each plot or parcel in town would have had to be charged at least $100 a month in order for us to earn enough money that we could do anything with. And that money would have come from our local parcel owners. The suggestion was made for the 1/4% sales tax to be included on any taxable purchases within the city limits, and that includes anything we order online. And I'm sure we all have FedEx and UPS at our house often. So for every $100 spent, it will cost you an additional 25 cents if this tax is passed. The majority of those taxes come from people driving off the freeway. So even though food is not taxed, when all those people are driving through South Weed and through our fast food restaurants, they are paying that tax. The cities of Wairika and Dunsmuir are already at $7.75. So if anybody shops at Walmart, did they realize that they were paying an extra 1/4% sales tax? I really doubt it. Those are just my clarifications.
Did it? Stacy?
Yes, Ms. Mayor. Just maybe one, just an update. As you know, we've been talking about the various cemeteries, and Lincoln Heights Cemetery has been refurbished, and it was 100% provided by the community members, and past and present through donations, 100% funded, so no money was asked for anyone else. But the community members were Claudius Hilliard, David Riley, Mr. B. I said myself, I was just advisory, I always talk on something, right? Chester Hopkins, and they have money. I did initially ask Sheriff Lope, didn't know he was gonna move and retire, but he offered to present some funds, but we didn't need that. We have over and above, signs have been refurbished. The shack has been enhanced from 6 feet to 12 feet. New sprinklers modifications, I'll say it that way. Limbs have been trimmed, but the great thing is the look of it. And if you happen to see it when we had Ms. Evelyn Smith's current service, they had flags all the way down the roadway, and they're all purchased new. So everything was newly purchased and presented and implemented, and it's done, and no money was asked for anyone. And any extra money is going to be taken to have things for like chairs, if anything else, or some more flags to put on the outside of the fence. But the first part of the entrance of the fence has been taken care of, and Ken knows about it because I called him a couple years when it wasn't there. And down the road from the front to the back has a great look. And we had some concurrence from the folks at the Wainema Cemetery who offered some supplies, but we gave them back because we don't need them. They can use, and they're looking at doing some enhancements. So I think it's a great community project, as we talk about budgets, that no money was asked for, the city didn't need it, but it was all out of the pockets, and everything is accountable for. So please take a look when you won't see the flags there now, but you'll see the first signs in the front that were painted, refurbished, increased how they did the signs in the ground, the holding. It's a great look, and that's what we should do as a city. People got involved, and now they're asking for maybe help do the Wainema side. So, but take a look. I'm very proud of the community members that got together, and they wanted me to. They won't let me say certain names that were leading the efforts. But I said I want to say that. My mom and dad taught me that, but I appreciate you as a group. So please take a look at that, and if people applaud them and give them kudos, because it was a great movement. And I said it one day, the next day they were working on it. So it's good. Just good scenes. That's all I have.
Good. And that leads me to volunteers, which I think when we talk into the city, we're preaching at the choir, because after our fire, we had lots of volunteers, people stepped up. I've been on Facebook off and on all day today with some of the people from Happy Camp in Southern Oregon. And one lady made a comment, because I said, really gift cards are the best. And she said, I don't have the extra money for gift cards. And I said, time, service and time is as good as a gift card, which that's a great example of service and time, is if you can't afford to do something, to use your time, because we all have that. Ken, 54.7% is what weed is at for the census. So yes, we do need to improve on that. Now, whether or not, when I get this report, once a week, every other week, it says weed, so I don't know if that includes Lake Shastina. I don't know if it includes the 96094, but yes, we need to get that census done, because there is quite a bit of money that we could get. September, online.
It only takes
Census, yeah.
You can go to the census online, you can get paperwork at the resource center, you can get paperwork at the county, there's
Yeah.
resources are out there.
Is-
I don't know if we have them here, but I mean.
Isn't it
the city-
census.org?
Something like that. If they call, I will find them.
So Saturday, September 19th at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Weed Rotary Club is helping sponsor, along with the Chamber, College of the Siskiyous, the City of Weed. We are having a cleanup day. So grabbers will be available, gloves, masks, garbage bags, and we're going to meet down on Commerce Court. But it's the little street that's behind Taco Bell at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and break up into teams, and we're gonna try to get all of that garbage that we all see, and as we're driving in our cars, and go, why doesn't somebody pick that up? And we're going to clean that up down there. So if you have a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper right now, write cfnorthstate.org. That is the new website for what we had here when Shasta Regional accepted donations for our Bowles Fire. They have just opened up today, it was about at 11, they opened up a website for donations for Happy Camp. And it's cfnorthstate.org. And they are taking donations on that website now. It is not for Southern Oregon. This is it's the Shasta Regional Community Foundation. So it's Siskiyou County. It's 2020census.gov is to do the census. So as you know, they were so kind to us here in Weed. I hope that anybody that can reciprocate for that for Happy Camp. Because I did listen to the Siskiyou Union High School board meeting last night, and they have 59 students at Happy Camp High School, and 30 of them lost their homes. So, and we had that bad here. I mean, we had 80 or 90 students between our elementary school and our high school that lost homes. And I mean, they're at half of their students have lost their homes. So they need the help downriver if anybody can help. Transportation board that I sit on, that is something that we are working on the stage. And we're trying to get better bus service for the entire county. So be watching for that, hopefully soon. They're bringing in a group. And I think that's all I have. Okay, so we will move on to the public hearing. So, the agenda item is continued from August 13th, and it is for the development agreement with Shasta Jefferson Growth. Yep. So we'll reopen the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor and Honorable Council. My role here, again, is to just report on what the Planning Commission discussed and how it went when we, just for review, we had a hearing a month ago before this body. There were significant, changes made to the development agreement since the last time the Planning Commission had reviewed it. According to state law, I think Government Code 65557, I believe, anything that's kind of a material change to an ordinance or something that needs both of approvals, that happens, that wasn't necessarily considered by the Planning Commission, well, that kind of causes that item to go back to the Planning Commission to discuss those changes. And here we are again today. So last month, the Planning Commission did review the latest change to the development agreement that you were aware of from the last meeting here. Essentially, the discussion ensued, and there was really no change. The Planning Commission opinion didn't change and the recommendation did not change. The motion was to approve the development agreement as modified, but the motion failed on a 2-2 tie. So basically, that's where we're at. The recommendation stands at, I guess, not approving the development agreement. I see that Ryan is queued up on the screen here. So he is actually the one that has the meat of the development agreement to discuss and the terms and how it's going. So I'm going to just sit down and let you guys ask questions or continue on with Ryan.
Thank you. Do we need Ryan, or Ryan is for our questions, but we're not ready for that yet. So, is there do you have your list of people that would like to speak? So let me remind you that you have 3 minutes, and if somebody's already said something you have to say, let's not repeat things. So.
Edward, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name, Boaz.
Yes.
That's me.
And make sure you speak into the microphone.
All right. I live here in Weed, and people right now are losing their
Name and
jobs.
address.
Oh, address, I'm sorry. 19231 Carrick Avenue,
Okay.
Weed.
Okay.
Edward Boaz. That's all right.
Yep. Thank
All
you.
right. We're losing people are losing jobs right and left right now. And we desperately need more jobs here in town. And the jobs that we have, especially at Krista Geyser, they're not family-friendly jobs at all. And we need some jobs around here that will pay people a decent wage and be able to pay their bills. And we desperately need this. And I beg y'all right now to okay this. You know, these jobs are desperately needed, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sandy?
Greg Weintritt.
Greg Weintraut, 8936 Blue Jay Lane. Shasta Grown has spent 2 years and worked with 2 city managers to create one document that is specifically designed to help the city of Weed, the surrounding community, and our company. I ask you to vote yes to adopt this development agreement so we can get to work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Robert Kay.
My name's Robert Kay, 307 Jackson Street. I'm in support of it, but in the sense that I'm a property owner. I own rentals in Weed. My family owns many rentals in Weed. And with the jobs that we currently have, we're at the maximum rent. I mean, we're cheap enough that people are coming from the Bay Area and renting these houses now. And there's no way that anyone here locally can afford one unless you own a business, unless you're already higher up at Crystal Geyser or the mill. I mean, I was blessed. My family's been in Angel Valley since 1925. I have no reason to leave. But if we keep trying to compete with Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir as a tourist town, we're going to go bankrupt. I lived in Dunsmuir, paying $120 a month just for basic utilities drives a lot of people out. And unfortunately, with prices going up, all my rentals right now are currently $200 to $300 under market value, because I know I'm at the maximum of what people can afford here. But if we don't allow new industry, which Weed is an industrial town, we were made by the mill. We have Crystal Geyser. And the only tourists that we do have are here because of our name, which is Weed. And I hear people saying they're trying to protect the honor of Abner Weed. Abner Weed didn't care about weed. He put it here, he named the company after himself, but he's buried in Dunsmuir because it was disgrace to be buried in Weed. Because this is where the common folk lived. This is where the working people lived, which he was not of. He's in a little fenced-in area down in Dunsmuir. We don't have the waterfalls. We don't have the beautiful mountain right there, right outside the back of our town. We got to drive 10, 15 miles. I have a vacation rental behind my house. There's people in there every day of the week. And if we don't get higher paying jobs, the 11 to 12 rentals that my family controls and just in residential and Weed will probably follow suit and become vacation rentals, because we can make 3 to 4 times the money and have more legal rights. So if we keep catering to vacationers and tourists, the locals like me that have been fighting for this town for almost a century, will have to throw our hands up and go with the tide. So this is a turning point for Weed. If we do not allow new industry into Weed, Weed will die. We will become Grenada, Montague, all these little hokey towns that have nothing there. This is our last hope. They already claimed our name. Let's cash in on it and give our citizens the ability to buy a house here.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Clapping.
Good evening. Richard Dinges, 34 Main Street. I represent the Chamber of Commerce, and we would like to have new businesses in Weed. I have to agree with Robert that the fact that we don't want to die, we want to expand, and I believe having new industry in this city is really going to help it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Vanderjack.
Hello, my name is Sean Vanderjack. I'm president of Local Lodge W12. We represent the 130 employees over at Roseburg. In 2016, we voted to legalize cannabis. In 2018, the people of Weed voted on Measure K by 70% yes to allow taxing commercial cannabis. You know, I don't think they voted yes on this because they didn't see what that could do. They voted yes because they wanted jobs here. So at the last Planning Commission meeting, I heard a couple of them talking about making us vote again. I don't get it. You know, these are people that, you know, are obviously doing well for themselves, but it's a disregard for struggling working families here, where we have a 22% poverty rating. You know, we were a logging town. We had industry here. If you look at the first chapter of the book of Mice and Men, it takes place in Weed, California. I mean, this was a booming town. And this is what it's come to. You know, that mill employed a lot of people, and now we're down to pretty much nothing. Pre-1980, I hear the old timers talking about, you know, if you quit one mill, you go right to another mill. Not a problem. You know, they called them mill hoppers. You could always get a job. You know, those mills, so Roseburg sold its forestry and bought a bunch in South Carolina, opened up a brand new mill in Charleston, bought a bunch of forestry because the white fir's better. You know, here we got this pine beetle problem. The wood's just not as good as it used to be. So the timber industry is moving south. It's moving to the southern states in the U.S. You know, I don't know if you guys recall this, but Amazon had a competition. It was the Amazon headquarters contest, where cities and towns all over the country were figuring out ways to bribe that company to come in and help their economy. You know, we don't have the money to bribe companies to come save us. You guys were just talking about our officers took a 10% pay cut. That's nuts, you know? I mean, are we proud that our poverty rate is 7% higher here than the rest of California on that average? It's nothing to be proud of. You know, you guys have an opportunity to save our town and leave it better than it was when you guys came in. And I really hope you guys vote yes on this. Save weed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Tolman.
Hello, my name's Robert Tolman. I currently live in Wairika, 6431 Old Highway 99 South. I'm a former resident of Weed. I did live here a couple years ago. I since moved up there because of, well, frankly, better opportunity, more businesses, more jobs available. You know, it's a fairly growing town. You know, I mean, it's not growing fast. You know, like I travel up to Medford and Talent and Ashland, and I'm just devastated by the fires that they've had, and my heart goes out to the families. But anyways, you know, they're flourishing up there. They're embracing the hemp industry. There's CBD, which hemp CBD farms that are just they're huge up there, and you know, the county and the towns are, you know, they're growing. You know, there's business and industry there, and you know, weed itself has a very unique opportunity, marketing, business-wise. It'd be very, very keen for weed to take advantage of the name, you know, weed, and really embrace and support the cannabis industry, because otherwise we're going to be left behind. You know, I mean, you go down Main Street and the shops closed all up and down Main Street. Where are the businesses? You know, there's no money here. People are going to keep on moving away, and there's going to be nothing left. And you know, like I said, I like to come here, and I love weed, and it's beautiful here. I mean, Wairika kind of sucks, really. I mean, not to be mean or anything, but you know, I like the trees, I like the pines and rolling hills, you know, and you know, it's a great community here, and we have wonderful people here. I was here through the Bullis fire. I was evacuated during the Bullis fire, and that was pretty crazy. And you know, we all stuck together, and you know, there's tremendous outpouring of support, and it's just a wonderful place. And I'd really love to be back here. And you know, if there's jobs here, you know, I could come here and you know, get paid $20 an hour. You know, doing something that I love. That I've been in the cannabis industry. I've worked for several co-ops, one locally in Mount Shasta, as a matter of fact. I volunteered there sometimes, and you know, it's just a great opportunity, and they've done very well there too. And you know, the co-ops and dispensaries there. You know, Shasta's flourishing too. You know, and we're just kind of sitting here on the sidelines here, going, well, you know, what's next? You know. So, you know, I hope that y'all support this and, you know, vote yes on, and let's get it going and, you know, help people, help the community. And, you know, taxes, I mean, you know, we pay like, what, 20% tax on the cannabis when we go to the co-op. I mean, and what, 7-8% goes to the state, the rest of it go to the city, you know, or the county, or, you know, et cetera. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Lillian Collins?
Hi, I'm Lillian Collins, 791 South Davis Avenue in Weed. And I do in-home health here. And I just can't believe we get paid minimum wage. It's like we do one of the hardest jobs ever. So jobs need to be, upgraded. Pay. So that's it.
Thank you.
Chris Carnes?
Hello, my name's Christopher Carnes. I live at 791 South Davis Avenue. I am one of the original members of the Weed Skate Park Committee, and I look back at that time when we were waiting for them to approve that and get the ground broken and get the skate park built. It was really a big accomplishment for the town, and it allowed something for our youth to do, you know. So looking at that, and now there's this big thing of increased opportunity for jobs and income for our community. I feel like those go hand in hand. So it'd be something that would benefit not only the town but the surrounding areas as well. So I'm vote yes, and hope you guys do too.
Thank you.
That's all I have currently. There were 3 letters that were submitted via email that it's all been distributed
Yep.
to you. Okay.
So everybody's out of that basket? Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right. Good, thank you. Okay, so, rebuttal by applicant, project proponent, any? Sure. Tell us something we don't already know.
Thank you all for your time. My name is Raymond Strack, 3038 Nighthawk Lane, Weed, California. I'm here if you have any questions, but I feel like we've pretty well covered everything. It's been a long road getting here. I'd like to thank all the city staff, former manager Stock, current manager Rundell, Bob Winston, Craig Sharp, Sandra, everybody at City Hall, Emily, Emily's predecessor, of course, and, you know, we've been working on this for a long time, and we're just really eager to get to the next stage of our business development and start putting the pedal to the metal and making it happen. So, yeah. Please.
Just maybe, looking at the last 2 years of what you've done, the current meetings, the current responses, what is something that you could say to the City of Weed constituents that will help the City of Weed, however you propose that? I know you've talked before, but I think you need to end this, not end it, but say something with that type of conclusion.
Absolutely. I think that looking at it in totality on a chronological basis from when we first started this endeavor, when we created the Permitting and Regulatory Advisory Board, which council persons Green and Tavalera were a part of, there was a lot of opposition, right? We went into those meetings and there were a dozen, 15, 20 people, the vast majority of whom were there to make sure that this didn't happen in our town. And the reality of the situation is that they were coming into it with a antiquated view of what that looked like. Some of that had to do with the advisory vote about unregulated home grows and unregulated dispensaries. Some of it had to do and still has to do with what's going on out in the Shasta Vista, which is abhorrent on many, many levels. And I think that the sort of fading of opposition and the increased vocalization of support is the most important thing that we can look at on a 2.5-year timeline of having these discussions and reaching out to the community and ensuring that those concerns that the community had were satiated. And I'm proud to say that, we're standing here today and a bunch of people coming and talking in support and not too many naysayers. And that 3 years ago, that was a different story. And so the incremental changing of minds and that sort of cognitive dissonance slide is really the most profound portion of this that I have witnessed, having been involved since the impetus. So I hope that answered the question.
Part way I wanted to hear. As far as the miscommunication that you hear out there on social media in public, can you just briefly identify that and say what's actually on record? Because I'm seeing that. I'm saying, why aren't people understanding what we voted for, what was said? Why they have this misconception? Because they don't want it? Okay, you have yours, but majority, like I said 7 years ago, I voted for it, and I was not, the city council didn't support it. I said, okay, watch when it comes back a few years later, the state says yes. Then we had to make a decision.
I think that this is sort of a esoterical argument, but within the framework of cognitive dissonance, you have a portion of people who change their mind because those around them and those that they respect change their mind. And some people will never get there. But that slide, it happens. And that slide is based on people in the community who they respect being like, you know what, maybe we were wrong. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot as a human being to admit when you were wrong. And some people never get there. And those that do are able to share that personal transformation with those who they have in their sort of community circle. So I really think that's what we're looking at. That's what we've witnessed over the past 3 years. And as far as the tangible benefits to the community, I mean, the numbers that you guys have in front of you as far as revenue and employment projections, those are fairly conservative. We hope to outstrip those. Certainly it is a multi-year project. It's not going to happen overnight. But if we do our job right, and I do my job right as the chairperson of our Appellations Committee and utilize that transparent quality standard in conjunction with our city logo, that top line on the revenue projections, that can be much, much larger than it is. Because if we really do our job and have a marketing campaign that puts it in the mind of the nationwide and worldwide consumer that the products that emanate from our town are of the utmost quality, those numbers are just going to keep going up.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions for Ray? Nope. Okay.
I'm not sure if Ray could answer this or not, but I noticed in a couple of the letters there were references to the measure on the ballot regarding cannabis.
Sure.
Can you explain the measure on the ballot regarding cannabis, or should I
Can you?
have Kim do that?
Yeah, Kim's researched it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you guys are more than welcome. My understanding of it, and I have not reread measure, I believe it's B, correct, right? I have not reread.
And if you don't know, it's okay. If Kim can add to it in our discussion, that would be okay too.
Sure. The baseline argument from Ms. Dickinson when she circulated that referendum was against indoor large-scale cultivation based upon ecological insustainability. Obviously, we were using clear-roofed, environmentally controlled greenhouses, and so the arguments about electric usage and, quite frankly, her lack of understanding about cultivation methodologies and water usage sort of inaccurately led her to the conclusion that, any commercial grow is ecologically unsustainable. And the fact of the matter is that if you are harnessing the power of the sun and you are using sustainable, probiotic, living soil web type cultivation, that is to say non-liquid based nutrient regimens, so you're not, the water you feed the plants is just water. You're not using the water as a medium for the nutrient. Those numbers that she purported in those documents when she circulated the referendum are simply inaccurate. Furthermore, it's been my understanding in discussions with City Attorney Winston that because the indoor was the specific call out in that referendum, and because we are not pursuing indoor cultivation, that referendum would not disallow this development agreement to move forward. And I think I got that right, but please, by all means.
Thanks.
Yeah. excuse me. Ray, with the letter, we have a letter here from Jennifer Dickinson, and I'm having a hard time recalling. I remember when they started the referendum, but I was at, I don't think it was a city council meeting. I think we were one of our economic development group meetings.
Yes.
Ms. Dickinson came to us and said she was very apologetic and was trying to.
That happened at both an economic development meeting and at a city council meeting. On the record, she got up and
I'm
apologized.
having a hard time recalling what she actually was trying to tell us when she came back. What did?
If I recall
Remember that?
correctly, and I've spoken with Ms. Dickinson about this subsequently, and I asked her politely to rescind the referendum, but unfortunately because she was brought on to do the referendum as sort of a hired gun, is my understanding that she didn't actually have the authority to rescind it. Yeah, she thought that we were talking about massive indoor warehouses, and once she realized we were talking about clear roofed greenhouses that didn't have the sort of ecological power consumption impacts that she had conceptualized, she realized she was wrong. I mean,
That's what she was telling us.
yeah.
But she was here at the last meeting. Excuse me. Well, she was here at the last meeting, and that's not what she was saying. Correct?
Her comments at the last meeting were not the most cogent in the world, so I don't want to misquote, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of it, some of it didn't make a ton of sense. I don't know what to tell you.
Thanks.
All right, well, anything else? I want to thank everybody for all your hard work and attention to this. Once again, city staff couldn't have done it without you guys, and I really look forward to getting to work.
If this didn't pass, just out of curiosity, would you still go ahead with the project?
No, we wouldn't be allowed to.
You wouldn't be allowed to.
I mean, we could go forward with the very small 9,800 square foot mixed use building, but that would not lend itself to the revenue stream from the city logo, and also probably only be about 10 employees.
Oh, okay.
And quite frankly, speaking to Councilwoman Green's comments regarding the article in the newspaper, the segmentation of those first two permits was a model proposed by former city manager Stock in a very specific attempt to allow us to have a revenue stream while we pursued CEQA, knowing full well that CEQA would be 12 to 18 months. So when we, in November 2018, we got those permits, there was a lag at the state level, so we did not actually receive those state permits until July of 2019. The MOU for this development agreement was signed in, I believe, February or March of 2019, and the idea was that we would have this wrapped up in 6 months to a year. That would have allowed us to do fundraising simultaneously while we finished the development agreement, and then utilize those funds to build out the initial revenue stream while we pursued CEQA on the greenhouses. So this is a very, very well thought through, sort of business model centric proposal that, quite frankly, former city manager Stock not only agreed with, but was enthusiastic about. And so for what it's worth, that's why, and obviously there were some fundraising issues due to COVID, as you can imagine. Capital markets sort of shrank because there was so much free money from the federal government, but that doesn't qualify. Cannabis businesses do not qualify for those sort of loans. And so there was a tight freeze on capital markets, which is why we were unsuccessful in raising enough money to break ground this spring. But I can tell you right now that we are very, very comfortable for breaking ground this coming spring, as long as this vote goes well.
I just have a follow-up question. And weren't you told when you initially presented the idea to do certain things which didn't include a development agreement? It was just to submit ideas and nothing concrete? Because some concern, and I have that in my back of my head, it was no paperwork for a while. But weren't you instructed
Absolutely.
to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So we had been talking about this from and during the permitting and regulatory advisory boards, of which there were some minutes taken. We were talking about how there's really only a handful of legislative mechanisms that could have allowed us to pursue a campus type project of this scale. And we had talked about a development agreement in the late summer, early fall of 2018, at which point city manager Stock, along with city planner McKinley, realized that because one of the APNs, one of the parcels that we had, was under 5 acres with no neighbors, we could qualify for infill exemption. And so we could get those permits done while we work on the broader project at large. And then it was approximately 2 months after the signing, or 2 months after the public hearing and the Planning Commission issuance of those permits, when we actually hammered out and signed the MOU, which had been in draft for several months prior.
My next question, you probably know this. So if this passes, how can you get the feet on the ground, something being done, movement, as I talked about?
Yeah,
There's 2 minutes of discussion and planning, but yet we want to see some shovels, some things going.
Interesting
When can
enough.
something start?
Yeah, we took in a fair few bids. Hopefully, I know that we had initially filed a tree cutting permit, which I believe is, I think we actually put it aside because we realized we weren't really ready to go there, but we're going to be out there clearing brush this fall to put in piles for burns after winter. So we're going to be out there with chainsaws and crews, as soon as humanly possible.
The last question, sorry so much.
Yeah, no, you're good.
That the community has
I'll
asked
say
me,
yes just for that.
why waiting 2 years to get approval for it? Because you want the decision made so you can get money to build everything. Is that your thought process?
Yeah, that's just kind of how it has to be done. Unfortunately, our industry is sort of handcuffed as far as fundraising mechanisms, right? If you had a business like this, with margins like this, with community support like this, that wasn't cannabis, banks would be shoveling money to you. Please go do this. Please go do this. We do not have that access yet. And so we have to be very careful about the type of venture capital and investors that we bring on. And so we've been very, very closely curating anyone that we bring into the fold. And I think that's also one of those social media things that have been floating around that we are somehow involved with Mr. Juarez or Mr. Chang, which is just absolutely nonsense. And, I think you guys all know that, so I'm not going to waste time. Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. We were on a good track to raise capital. We had a number of interested parties, and then quite frankly, when Ron quit, I think you guys all recall this from the meeting in March. I had been told, and I think many of you were aware, that the documents that we had submitted in November, we were supposed to have our first public hearing in January. And when I had to go back to those investment entities and tell them that I just got told that city manager had not done what he was supposed to do and that we were facing a 6 to 8 month delay, well, I look really bad, right? And it's not my fault, but there's nothing I can do. I had to wait for Tim to get here. So unfortunately, that's just what it was. And so some people walked away from the project because the timeline just stretched out and there were other opportunities for them to invest in, right?
The timeline is an important question that I think needs to be heard. And I hope everyone's ears are opening because there's certain things that were communicated that are not real as what's been stated. And I'm about truth. My parents taught me, be truthful. It may hurt, but be truthful. And I think that needs to be happening in all situations. And I thank you for taking the time to explain that because it keeps coming out differently. That's not the story.
No, and hey, listen, the emails are there. Like, you guys want to dig in, the chain of custody on those emails is there. They're on the city server.
Thank you for your responses. That's
No
all.
problem, man. My pleasure.
Okay, no more questions? Okay, we can close the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Council member discussion. Sure.
Okay.
You may start.
So I know that not tonight, in some of our letters, but in our past meetings and at the the planning commission meeting, there were several comments about why are we doing this now? Why are we rushing into it? Well, I don't think we're rushing into anything when we started in 2017. And why don't we just wait until November when it goes back to the vote? Well, that's not what this ballot measure says. This ballot measure does not say, can we allow commercial cannabis grow in the city limits? It says, can we regulate them? So, shall ordinance 453, 2019, regulating the commercial growth of cannabis within the city limits, requiring a license for such business operations, limiting who may obtain such a license, and imposing regulations of the conduct of business operations to protect the health, safety, welfare of the residents of the city be adopted. So, if you think that this says, should we allow cannabis growth in the city of Weed, and you vote no, what you're doing is stopping us from regulating it. It doesn't say that we're not gonna grow it. It says now we can't regulate it. And so that means that it will automatically go by the state regulations, and our city regulations are more restrictive than the state regulations are. So on this, by voting yes, you're gonna vote that the city can make the regulations and we can hold the business owners to those regulations. But it does not say yes or no, can we grow this in the city limits? So I have copies of it if anybody wants to see it. I don't know if there's any copies back there, but I made one. I have a few of them. So if anybody wants to see it, they're more than welcome to read it again. But it's going to be on the ballot in November.
Hey, Ryan, do you have that document? That measure?
Yes.
Is that what you read into it, is what Kim just explained?
Yes, and that's what's reflected in your city attorney's impartial analysis as well. Basically, they attempted to they are referending a ordinance that you passed, which means that they are attempting to strike down an ordinance that you passed. The ordinance that you passed regulates cannabis in this way. And so strike them to be regulation on cannabis in that manner. And the city does not otherwise prohibit cannabis businesses in that manner, so it wouldn't in any way prohibit them.
Okay.
Ryan, can I ask you a question? Can you hear me?
Of course.
From your legal perspective, can you summarize briefly the differences that may be? I'm always on what public comment is and what they say. Can you support or however you just or reply to what you've heard as far as the agreement, what the city people think, what's actual reality? Can you pinpoint the bullet points or just two differences or three? I think there's three of them that you probably can explain from a legal perspective.
Sorry, differences between what the development agreement does and what the public comment suggests it might do?
Right. Just from, I like that you're a lawyer, so I appreciate that response. So I want to hear from your side where you're coming from. Since you're impartial, you're not a city attorney, you were suggested.
Of course. I think the main difference from some of the comments that I've heard and what this actually does is that this is really just an agreement that freezes the standards that would apply to this type of business now. It does not allow them to build any particular, to actually put boots on the ground, put shovels in the ground, and actually build any particular building. It basically says that the city will not pull the rug out from under the developer 6 months down the line and disallow cannabis altogether, for example. They will have to go through a subsequent process, which will, the plan unit development process, which will much more clearly define the scope, the conditions, and everything else on the actual development of that parcel. And that would be the process that potential issues with utilities would be addressed, for example, that, the exact size of the structures, possibly, conditions related to either sound or to odor, things like that would be handled through the plan unit development process. And the only way, according to the applicant, and this is, the applicant's point, and I can't attest to it, but the applicant's point is that given how capital markets work for cannabis, they really need the assurance that the city would not subsequently disallow this type of development 6 months into their CEQA review, so that they don't put a bunch of money into it and then have cannabis outlawed in Weed, California. That has happened in other places throughout the state where a city or county will allow cannabis, and then people will invest money in that business, and then they will change their minds, or the board or the city council will change composition, and then they will disallow it, and those people are basically out of luck. So I think that's the main difference between what I've heard some folks say about this agreement and what it actually does. But if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer that as well.
Okay.
Just to follow up one, I have one more.
Go ahead.
So we have a committee, Planning and Development Committee, that voted not for it. And so we as a body we need to look at that information and decide. Have you had experience of that type of decision being made? Or any companies you work with or cities?
As far as a city council disagreeing with the planning commission's assessment?
Yes, just what you've heard in our meetings, that's all. I'm trying to understand that. Yes.
So I have seen city councils disagree and take a different approach than the planning commission. Often they, one is an appointed board and one is an elected board. There's different interests that the individual members have. There's different experiences that individual members have. So it's not extremely uncommon for there to be for the city council to disagree with what the planning commission decided. But it more often than not, the city council follows the planning commission's recommendation.
Thank you for your answer. That's all I wanted.
Okay, I have a question for Ryan also. So you just gave the benefit for the developer to have this development agreement. Give me what the benefits to the city are to have this development.
Of course. So typically benefits for the city include, being able to lock in favorable terms. For example, I assume, although I will leave to you to legislate, but I assume that the minimum wage, the expanded minimum wage in this development agreement would be favorable to the city. If we didn't do this through a development agreement, the city wouldn't have the same mechanism to require an expanded minimum wage, higher minimum wage for this project. Often cities enter into these agreements because they're interested in the type of development that is being proposed, but that developers can't or won't do that type of project in that city without this type of assurance. So often it's just a deal where the city wants this type of development, the developer wants to develop there but needs assurances, and they can come to this sort of agreement.
Thank you.
Are you good? Well,
Surrounded, stereo. Not necessarily questions. Ms. Mayor, I want to just basically clarify myself, I guess, make sure everybody knows what's going on in my life, but not necessarily intricate parts. But I was born and raised in McLeod. Okay, I moved to Weed. My in-laws were born and raised in Weed. I've been here since 1967, and short time in the military. Came back. My kids, both my kids live in Weed. 3 of my grandsons live in Weed, and 2 of my great-grandsons live in Weed. And I mention that because I've been here long enough to understand the plight of just a family trying to exist in the mountains. The lumber industry, obviously, at one point, like I mentioned before, 1982, we lost 750 jobs overnight. Okay, it takes a long time to rebound from that. And those 750 jobs were ordinary, just regular jobs that you could go. It was mentioned earlier. I think Sean mentioned it, that you could go to McLeod, to Mount Shasta, wherever, and one of these jobs would be open for you. And those slowly disappeared. Back in the early 90s, late 80s, I forget exactly when it was, the proposal for a prison to come to Weed. And I wasn't in favor of a prison. No way. But I went and spoke on the behalf of, for the prison, because here again, I understand the plight of a family trying to exist here, and to not only just to raise your kids and have them go to college and move away and never be able to come back. I still have hope that the day will come when our people will leave to go to school and come back to Weed. But we need support jobs. Supporting jobs. And when we talk about a livable wage jobs, that's just not for that area. That's competition for our labor force. That means that other people are going to have to raise their pay also. And until somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is a better idea here, let's do this, I kind of got to go with it. I'm looking at some things that like right now we talk about the black market. The black market is dependent upon people opposing legalization. Stop and think about that. They are dependent on the opposition. The black market, and the black market is violent. There's some stuff going on. We don't even want to know what's going on. In the last 20 years, cannabis has been separated from heroin and meth. The industry has come along, and in weed, we've watched a pretty some sound business. A sound business has been developed, and I look ahead 20 years from now. 20 years from now, if we made this change, 20 years from now, this understanding that, because there's still a lot of people that understand cannabis. There really are. There's a lot of people, and quite often it has something to do with generational gaps or generational knowledge. But I look for, in 20 years, I see it being even less opposition for it, and especially if it's done right. But here again, back to the black market, we've got to do something to that's something that's really tainting this whole thing right now. As far as the investors, I have met some of Mr. Strack's investors, possible investors that were coming through when everything was moving fast. And they were upstanding people. They were impressive people, the ones I met. And I have worked, we've been on this for 3 years now. And I'm going to go out right now and say, I really believe that this is going to come to, if it comes to fruition, it's going to be a success. It's going to be something that we can be proud of. It's something that we can build on. But and at the same time, I do respect the people that oppose this. That's okay. But I hope that people that oppose it can kind of have maybe possible little faith in that this may not be the boogeyman you think it is. And it's not going to be the thing that saves weed. But it's going to be an integral part of it. If we get another 200 jobs, 250 jobs, living wage jobs, and not only living wage jobs, there's going to be a lot of technical jobs in there that are really quite lucrative when it comes to the pay scale. So I'm in favor of this, and I think that there's been quite a push now to make this a political item, and maybe it is. Maybe it just is. And if that's the fact, I think that it's time for us to make our decision and live by it. Thanks, Ms. Mayor.
Ken?
Yes, after that, those are very important points that Bob has brought out in my mind. I would have to tell you I'm almost the opposite. I started in Mount Shasta, born in Shasta. Family of 4 brothers, mom and dad, grandma, grandpas. There is nobody left in Siskiyou County except for myself and my son. They have all left before jobs. That's a little disappointing that we don't have much to offer here. So I would chime in with Bob in the respect that we need to bring jobs. Jobs bring ancillary jobs to the forefront that may not be involved with cannabis, but involve other business and the rest of the community. Not only our community, but all of Siskiyou's community. I'm not sure if we would be having this argument if this was another type of business. Cannabis is a permitted business in the state of California. We are attempting to codify our regulations with our measure on the ballot. If this was Budweiser and alcohol, would we be having this conversation? Or would we just say, let's pop open a can? Okay, the ills of marijuana have been blown out for over 70 years or more. I would still be hard-pressed to tell you that cannabis has been responsible for any highway deaths. There's possibly a few out there, but not a whole lot. We can always have a first aid kit. I think Kim always reminded me of having a first aid kit for overdose on cannabis was a chocolate bar and a... I think you must have said that, Kim. Okay. Well, in some cases it does, yes. So I do believe that this business is going to be. We're not making an overcommitment here to do a draft, to do a development agreement. We are just allowing the process to take its place, allowing a potential business to come to town, provided he can get investors. In order to get investors, he needs commitment from the city. To me, that's not being overcommitted. That is, we're still in control. We're not losing any kind of control issues. We have a planned unit development that is coming. If this passes, which we also are guardians of. So again, I don't think the city is really stretching out there very far. And so those are my opinions.
Thank you. Mrs. Green.
I think I gave mine.
Mr. Green, you have a book there. You have something to say?
Not a lot, no. I said, just, my previous positions were in human resources, so I work with people. I listen to people. And when things are said that we do things that are against people's on their backs, I have a problem with that because I don't believe that's correct. Being here 8 years, I've seen decisions that have been made that are supportive of people. And to say that we aren't listening to the people of Weed, I think that's a misspoke statement. And I'm just looking at what will this present to the city? Jobs. I worked in employment before I came back home in 2010. I came back, my mom said, "Where are you going to work?" I said, "I don't know." I happened to see with my friend at the weed store. He goes, "Oh, you're overqualified, but you can work here." I started there in 2010 and just stopped before when the virus came this year, so it was almost 10 years. But I was fortunate. But not everyone has that fortunate opportunity. And when I talk to youth, which I have the last 10 years, seeing what's been done, some of them don't want to work for the mill. I don't agree with that. Said you're young, you have muscles, go do that pull chain, make $20-some an hour. Why do you want to keep walking the streets and get unemployment and have better shoes and phones than I have? I have that, and I still believe that. But still, for us to present an opportunity for jobs, that is my pointer for that. Because when I came back, I asked my mom, "Why did you vote against the prison? That would present jobs." She goes, "I don't know. I think your dad told me to." I said, "Well, you don't do what Daddy says." But just that premise, because I asked different people, either other people, why did you vote against the prison? Because of what was said during the presentation, what would be the unsafe, which aren't founded theories. And the same thing which I see in the different statements, that they're saying that is going to be a regulation that's not going to be supported by this business. They have explained the safety and health standards and safety mechanisms that they have in place. You can choose not to believe it, but they reported it. So again, and it comes back to choice. You either vote yes or no. As I first stated about 7 years ago when the marijuana initiative came in, I was voted against it. I said, okay, wait. When a state law came in and passed it, I said, now what are we going to do now? The state says we have to do it. Then we changed our position as a council. And that's the thing when I'm saying this was already voted on, as was mentioned, by the state. You can disagree with it. You can move. But when you stay in the state, you have to do what the state says to do. That's legal, or you can be arrested or do something against it and serve time. And we don't want you to do that. So, and when I look at the black market, now that's a reality. Some decisions have been made, which if you haven't seen, you should understand. Some leaders are moving out of the area because of black market presence. So that's a reality. It is there. I have never went out to A12. I'm scared to go out there because I hear stories that people came into the store, they wanted to buy some police hats and go out there and challenge them. I said, that's not a smart thing to do because you probably be hurt. And so the reality is, acknowledge that it's there, but I think we as a city can do a presence that if we regulate things correctly and hold things that are accountable by state and local rules, we'll be okay. You can decide against it, but it's still going to happen. Look at the crime on our streets. People are doing things that are against the law right now, but are they be accountable? Yes. But is it right for them to do? I personally think no. But you only can do so much to stop them. So you only can stop so many things, but I think when the person comes in that presented the information that they're going to abide by health and safety standards, how can anything be wrong with that? If they acknowledge that, they're going to do things health and safety for your health and safety. I remember when I first came here, and I was on, first elected to the city council, and a gentleman, they meet at different restaurants in the morning. They were saying, Stacy, okay, I don't like your vote because my neighbor, wherever he is, I'm not going to say where, but he smokes, and I can smell it on my front porch. And I asked him not to do that. He said no, it went to the back porch. And I said, no, now that I disagree with. As neighbors, we should be respectful. I think respectful is hearing what the comments are and making a decision. That's why you may not believe everything the city council does, but we have to do for the best of what the majority is for the city people that live here. Some of you may disagree. I'm okay with you disagreeing, but we have that choice. And the main thing is that we do have a choice in this situation. It may go yes, it may go no, but that's how the state is in America. If you don't like it, you have to move somewhere. But that's what we have from our top, just like I said, voting the second Tuesday, whoever you vote for. But I'm tired of people saying still that they're not going to vote because it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. My mom worked on a farm in Alexandria my grandfather owned and picked cotton before school. And I always think about that story. I said, Mama, why'd you do it? Because I had to. And when I think of people that have died because they marched and they stood for right, we wouldn't be in this place as we are now without, like myself, I wouldn't be on this position if we didn't have people that stood for things. So stand for what you believe, and if you don't believe, it's okay. I still can respect you as a person and still be friends with your neighbors. I think we need to remember that, and that's all I have.
Okay. So I've got some statistics. In 2014, the advisory vote, and I was probably sitting right there where the lady in the black shirt was sitting. And I came down here and the council was having a discussion about medical marijuana store. And this advisory vote was, that's what they asked. Should there be a medical marijuana dispensary in Weed? That was the question. And it was 50% said no and 45% yes. And I was sitting right there and said to the council, did you not understand what the people said? And so it was put off. So in 2017, the state had a vote, and we have 3 precincts here in Reading. And the question then was, should cannabis be legal in the state of California? And in our 3 precincts, 62% said yes, and 37% said no. 60% said yes, 39% said no. 58% said yes, 41% said no. So that right there told me that, and maybe it was different people. Maybe on this first one, only all the no people went to vote. Maybe on the second one, it was all the yes people. But like Stacy said, you gotta go vote. So somebody that spoke mentioned that we should embrace the name of weed and support this project. I don't want anybody to think that that's what I want to do, because that's not, the town was not named after a cannabis plant with the nickname of weed. It was named after Abner. So I'm not going to embrace that. And I won't change my mind and start using cannabis on a daily or weekly basis at all whatsoever. But on the other hand, I also won't be frequenting the liquor store, because I've said this to everybody I know and to many people. I am completely convinced a liquor store is worse than a cannabis store, but that's my own opinion. I appreciate what you said about, Bob, about the black market, and they want the opposition, because that is a valid statement. And the other thing with you 3 back there, believe me, when you go start clearing that brush out in South Weed, I will be down there with pom-poms and be a cheerleader, because that stuff makes me crazy. But I want to see that happen. I want to see this get going. I know, because if we have to talk about this one more time, I might scream. So I want to see in 12 to 18 months something happen, because I like action. I told those people down there with the buildings. let's get some action going. So that's how I feel about it. Again, I won't be down there robbing anything from you because that's not what I do. But there's jobs and that whole jobs thing, and that's what I agree with. I think every one of them and all the people that spoke. If we can get jobs, how can we say no to something that will bring us jobs? Because Ken, you're right. If it was a Budweiser plant, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. We'd be saying, sure. So, anyway, so nobody else has anything? Are we ready to vote? Tim, would you like to say anything?
He just had this look on his face.
Oh, no, I pushed my mic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're ready for action. Somebody would like to,
I don't have a copy of the ordinance anywhere. Is it in here? Development agreement? I'll just simply put, I move to approve to approve the first reading of the development agreement, the introduction and first reading of the development agreement for the cannabis project. I'm sure I mistitled that
By title
somewhere.
only?
does that all work, Sandy?
Title only?
By title only?
I'll second it.
Hand it to me. Take me 3 days to get there.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the development agreement. All in favor?
This is first reading.
First reading.
First reading and introduction.
First reading and introduction of the development agreement.
Yes, ordinance number.
Ordinance number
462-2020.
462-2020.
Are we doing it by title only, or are we actually doing?
I said that.
Oh, okay.
Let's just do it. I don't actually have it in front of me, so it's hard to read the verbiage in there. I think it was in last month's calendar.
It's included.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's at
It
the
is.
public hearing
Yeah, but it doesn't give
at that.
the title.
Development agreement, it says right there.
Just says development agreement.
Doesn't it give a number for 462-2020?
It says development agreement with the city of Weed and gross number pursuant to California Government Code, but that comes out of the title.
I don't see a title, so in lieu of development agreement between the city of Weed and Shasta Jefferson Growth Business Incorporated, a California corporation, and developer are individually deferred to as via, I mean, there's nothing. Sorry for my scrambled brain here, but.
Is that enough, Sandy? Ryan, was that enough?
If somebody was.
Yes, I believe you referenced the ordinance number.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do we have to say something again, Sandy?
Yes.
So now we have.
Yes.
Well, if you're introducing it, you did your first reading and introduction of the ordinance.
So we're good.
By title only.
title
Now we
only.
have to actually.
Okay.
And I don't have a title. I can go through this 20 more times, but I don't have a title.
Isn't it that first paragraph right under public hearing continued from duly noticed August 13th?
Correct.
Development agreement.
Okay, the council will consider the introduction and first reading of an uncodified ordinance approving development agreement number 462-2020 between Shasta Jefferson Growth, Inc. and the City of Weed, affecting assessor parcel number 060-601-360, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, pursuant to the California Government Code Section 65864.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded for the first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So now we're done? Okay. That was very difficult.
To the next.
Very difficult, because I didn't see it.
Why not?
There's no bold print for me to.
Come on, Sandy.
It's okay. I'm easily lost. It's okay.
All right, we're gonna have extra large print next month.
I didn't draft the development agreement. We're gonna put that one on Ryan.
Okay,
I think we say goodbye.
bye, Ryan. Thank you.
You want a time?
Sorry, first of all, thank you all for your support. I believe there has been a discussion about potentially having a second reading before the end of the month. It substantially changes our.
Oh.
Has to be adopted at the regular.
Oh, it does. Okay, I misunderstood that then. I apologize. See y'all next month.
Okay, moving on to the irregular agenda, council will consider
Public hearing. Keith's second.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Keith. No, it's B.
All right, Keith.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Honorable Council. On March in 2020, March 18th, the City Planning Commission held a public hearing, and in that public hearing, I proposed changes to Section 18.5, Chapter 18.52 of the Municipal Code, which governs accessory dwelling units. Sometimes it's known as granny units, second units, that. The public hearing was given, and the City Council, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to pass these amendments to the Municipal Code at Chapter 18.52. Basically, essentially, what this is another update that was passed in legislation by the state of California, which became effective in January 2020. Essentially changing the rules once again for modifying and let's say refining the rules for accessory dwelling units in the state of California. I'm not going to go over the staff report much. That was on the record already in March, and also we went through it just earlier. The state legislature basically gave us new standards to go by. I went down the bullets before. Essentially, it is to remove the barriers and clarify issues that most jurisdictions have in clearing out the way to remove the barriers for locating accessory dwelling units on existing parcels. There was many clarifications. We have addressed all of the all of the bullet points that the state has set forth. We've done such things as modified the purpose statement to be more clear and really to the point. We've updated some definitions at 18.52 to add more clarification to the newer language that is set forth by the state. We eliminated occupancy requirements as per the state. Essentially, it used to be you had to have a owner occupy the main building, and they've taken that away as a barrier. We eliminated the requirement to address zoning violations that were, like, let's say you want to have a ADU and you have some glaring zoning violations on the property. Well, the state says we can't really hold up the ADU because of these zoning violations. So we've addressed that issue in our code. We eliminated requirements for minimum lot size, which was part of the state. Eliminated lot and setback dimension requirements, and added language for junior ADU and JADUs can be placed. Clarified parking requirements. Changed selected word to clarify the unit size, and eliminated any design requirements for that is a discretionary and not consistent with the intent of the state legislation. We've clarified the applicability of public utility connections for ADUs, and added an entire section of 18.52 that provides that the second units can be permitted simultaneously without a existing primary building. And we've also eliminated one entire permit process section at the end and replaced it with usable process information that is actually relative to getting a building permit for these. And we added language in that permit section. It pertains to the actual building, I just said that, and beyond residential permitting. So in conclusion, what's really one thing to remember is cities and counties and jurisdictions have always kind of tried to make it harder to place these second units on their properties. And the state has recognized second units as being a very viable way to help with affordable housing. So unfortunately, we did have a lot of those sections in our code from the first round when we did 2017. We used to have a use permit. We used to make, well, we had just about every barrier that you could think of in our code. And since 2017, and probably since about 2006, as a matter of fact, they've been making changes. And so this is the last one. And again, we're not doing anything out of the scope of what the state legislature had intended with this change. So the Planning Commission did recommend 5-0 to adopt this first reading of the ordinance, and so we can move on with our permitting for ADUs consistent with state law. That's my staff report. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. We expired our questions, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we took care of it.
I move the introduction and approval of ordinance number 463-2020 by title only.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve first reading ordinance number 463-2020 by title only. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I move the adoption of ordinance number 463-2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Weed, revising chapter. I'm not on microphone. Where's the monitor? Okay.
I was just hearing that.
Ordinance number 463-2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Weed, revising chapter 18.52 of the Weed Municipal Code in regard to accessory dwelling units.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Now can we, now can we move to
Come on, Keith.
regular agenda? Council would consider resolution 22-2020 to apply for the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant.
Yes.
You?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Last month, we had conducted a public hearing to discuss the Community Development Block Grant of 2019-20, the NOFA. Here tonight, I have Quentin Gaddy. He's going to explain a little bit more in detail what the grant request is and how the program can work pending the passing of the resolution tonight. So.
Good evening, everybody. I guess one of the things I want to preface about this program is going to be designed for the medium to long-term recovery and resilience in the face of COVID-19. At Siskiyou Economic Development, we're currently partnering with the county on providing grants to businesses through CARES Act funds through the CRF program. And through this process, it's provided a lot of insights into the business community and just how stark it is. I was helping a business owner complete her application, and she told me, thanks, I might stay open a month longer now. And it devastated me. I grew up in Siskiyou County. I lived in Lake Shasteen at one point. I graduated from Wairika High School. None of my family remains. I was the only one who came back after school. Because there's limited opportunities for business owners, for employers. So the idea of this program, this would be a $500,000 program geared towards micro enterprises, which are small businesses with 5 or fewer employees. And the idea of this program is to provide funds and technical assistance that allows them to adapt their businesses for whatever this new normal may be. The number one industry impacted in Siskiyou County right now are hospitality, leisure, and restaurants, industrial classification. Compared to July 2019, their unemployment is up 34.6%.
Wow.
This is significant. It is the number one most hard impacted industry. A few spots further down on that list is retail and trade, which is down 21.6% compared to last year. And this is a sizable employer in Siskiyou County and in the city of Weed. So based on my market analysis and what I've looked at of what the community needs are, the idea is to design this program tailored towards those businesses who could really benefit, primarily those small restaurants and retail shops with fewer than 5 employees. This is going to be a piece of what needs to be a holistic, comprehensive package. We're not seeing a lot of action going on from the top right now, so we need to look at, well, what is everything available to us and how do we utilize that? So we're looking at how do we complement this program with our Small Business Development Center? How do we work with JEDI and their services? How do we work with other grant programs, future coronavirus funds? And how do we weave all this in order to limit how many businesses are closed? I can't tell you how many businesses are closed. The Small Business Administration isn't tracking it because, according to their staff member, they don't pay us to do that.
Oh, I thought maybe they laid them off. I don't know. It's just
So it's really imperative on us as a community to do everything we can to scrap together every dollar we can to save our businesses, because our business community is the heart of our community. I'm going to be here for a few years to do whatever I can to limit the bleeding. This is my number one agenda. This is what my work is dedicated to at the Economic Development Council. It shifted on a moment's notice because of this virus, but this is a strong, resilient community. Wildfires can't knock us out. I don't think COVID-19 can knock us out. And so I can answer any questions on the specifics of the program, how it's going to work. The EDC would serve as a subrecipient to the City of Weed for this program. It would be only for businesses within Weed city limits.
That answered my question. Thank you.
Other than that, I can answer anything else on the mechanics. It is regulatory heavy. There is a lot of ins and outs in the monitoring and reporting that goes to it, but we have an awesome team at Siskiyou Economic Development. You have an awesome team here at the City of Weed, and we think this program can be a great success.
I have a question. Is this primarily for existing business, or can we use it as like an incubator for new business?
When we set up the program guidelines for this program, there is going to be input provided from the city council, from the public, from the business community, and you can either structure that to say, does a business have to be before such and such date? For our county grants that we're pumping out right now, there's a stipulation in there that says you have to have been in business since July 2019. I personally think, hell, if you're starting a business in the middle of COVID-19, you deserve every little bit of help you can get, because this is what the community needs. So that is up to you guys to decide. HCD will have, California's Department of Housing and Community Development will ultimately have the final approval on these guidelines. But if we make the case that hey, new businesses here are, this is where the jobs are going to come from, then that's something we can do.
I was watching the Planning Commission meeting, and there was a gentleman that has the truck stop at Mobile Truck Stop or Mobile Truck Service. And he was on a wire, is what it appeared to me, as far as being able to make it, not make it. So when would these funds be available to someone? Are we talking 6 months down the road or a year?
I wish I could give you an answer that would make people happy. The California Department of Housing and Community Development right now is processing 2018 contracts. This is a 2020 contract. They're on 10% furlough. Everyone in the state is, my father included. And then we also have the COVID stuff coming in at the same time. I can't make promises on when it's going to come. I can say that when it does come, it'll be in our hands to decide how it is best used. I know it benefits from a significant amount of waivers that the federal government through the Department of Housing and Urban Development pushed through. So for example, in previous years, you had to tie $35,000 for every grant to one job. They've bumped that all the way up to $85,000, and they've made that for retention, so if it saves a job. So the rules and the regulations are as loose as they've ever been for this current program. That's where it's the benefit. But this is a seed that you would have to tuck and water, because it might be the middle of next year before it actually gets going.
Okay. That's a good, honest answer. I appreciate that.
So we're not ready to refer people to you yet?
No. But in a positive note, what we spoke at the last meeting, the CV funds should be expedited. And that is that hopefully we can start getting that out in December or January. It's obviously substantially less compared to this, but everything we can get in the meantime as fast as we can, we're working on that.
Okay, so for those, should people be contacting you for what'd you say, CV?
Yeah, the coronavirus relief funds. Yeah, so after we have a contract signed with HCD is when we can begin marketing that. So right now, we still have that Siskiyou County CRF grant, and anyone you can tell about that, it is open, please apply. You only need a profit and loss statement, your tax form, some employment data, a few other things. We try to make it as easy as possible, so that is still open. You can always tell people about that.
Is that on your website?
It is on our website, yes, siskiyoucounty.org/recovery.
And you will assist, or will SEDC assist in the applications?
We get phone calls every day.
Perfect. Thank you.
What'd you say, slash what?
Recovery.
And the chamber, Richard down at the chamber has the information too. I'm pretty sure he went to tried to get to each business in town about that.
Mm-hmm. It was originally, the county originally had a 2-week application date. They saw that not enough was coming in, so they've extended it indefinitely. But funds do have to be out the door by December, or else the state's going to take them back. No. Yeah. So you have to. I'm sure you can come up with something. You have to show your 2019 revenue figures and then compare them to your current figures and demonstrate a gap between that. So some businesses have applied and they're actually doing better, and they got denied because of that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In Section 6, number 2, it says, should the city receive the requested grant, city's participation in the grant is contingent on the fact prior to expenditure of the funds, a subrecipient agreement and program guidelines will be submitted to the city council for review and approval.
Correct.
And that hasn't been done yet?
No. So yes and no. The subrecipient agreement is currently in the works. It's going to be modeled after the one that we're developing for the CV plan. So that basically will stipulate how we dictate a division of responsibilities, reporting, internal reporting to the city of Weed, how we track our finances, things like that. For the second one that you brought up, what was that again?
I'm just asking because it said for me to grant it, we need to have the guidelines.
And the guidelines, correct.
Review and approval.
Yeah, so because of the structure of the application process, we have to submit the application, be approved, and then develop guidelines for approval through HCD. So the guideline process is sort of lengthy, and the reason they structure it that way is because for this grant program, this is traditionally a competitive program, not guaranteed. And so a lot of cities, jurisdictions just don't have the money up front to do that, and they need CDBG funds already accounted for to be able to develop the guidelines, because those are going to be substantially longer than the application.
And number 3 in that same, number 6 says that you're going to document the activity and establish relationships necessary to achieve the goal, and that will include a description and role of each partner. So that's a lot of pre-work to be done.
Correct.
At the same time. Now, I'm thinking of resources and availability of people that are putting it together. Mm-hmm. Do you have that in place currently now?
Yes, we do. We're benefiting because we're doing a lot of programs with overlap. So we're doing a similar program with the city of Dunsmuir, and then this is a similar program to the CDBG CV funds. And so because we're going through the ropes all over again, I could almost do it blindfolded at this point.
That's only process questions I had.
No? I don't have any questions. He answered it. Okay.
So is it first reading or?
I was going to make a motion. You did get a question? No. Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we read resolution number 22-2020 to apply for the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant, NOFA, dated January 21, 2020.
I'll second
By
it.
title only.
Second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we accept resolution number 22-2020 to apply for the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant, NOFA, dated January 21, 2020.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept Resolution 22-2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Quentin.
Okay. Resolution 23-2020, amending the city's fiscal year budget. Fiscal.
Fiscal. No,
Fiscal.
fiscal.
What's physical?
Madam Mayor, Council, tonight before you is a resolution for an adjustment to our fiscal year 2021 budget. You passed back in June of 19, two budgets for fiscal years 1920 and 2021. Sometimes throughout these budgets and throughout the year, things happen, and we just had a major thing happen here throughout our country with COVID-19 and a few other things that have happened internally within the city that have caused me and my finance director to bring this forward to you tonight for your review and acceptance. And we discussed briefly at the study session some of the need for changing, and I'll just kind of hit the highlights, and I'll let Emily take any of the technical questions. But essentially, when we go down through the analysis for our revenue, currently we've been in contact with our folks at the Assessor's Office of Siskiyou County. We feel like our property taxes are probably going to go up a little bit this year, about $17,000 out of about $650,000 approximate per year. That's good news. Now here's the bad news. Sales tax. As Mr. Gaddy was just talking about a few moments ago, the hospitality industry has taken a major, major hit. I mean, he laid out some pretty substantial numbers for the number of unemployment within our county itself, and saying that when you're in a tourism community, and I know that gets thrown quite a bit, but we do have a lot of traffic coming off the interstate and off 97 that pumps a lot of money into our local economy. HDL, who is a company that we just recently retained, has given us some projections on our sales tax. They estimate that we need to reduce it by about $160,000 for this next coming year. Our transient occupancy tax, they felt like because of some of the trends, as you just heard in our hospitality industry, we need to reduce that by about $72,000 a year. Our property tax in lieu of VLF, that's the way the state uses property taxes, and vehicle license fund, kind of, playing the shell game. They've been doing this since 2004, but it's a slight increase of $11,000. Business licenses, that's not going to really make a big dent. We had a little bump on our workers' comp reimbursement because we're part of a pool program. So we had a good year last year, but we know that we're not going to have a good year this year as far as comp because we have some substantial claims that are probably coming this way. The other thing is our miscellaneous revenue, and it's compiled. We instead of going down each one, we went through with our department heads and within the departments itself. We estimate a decrease of about another $210,000. Within the expenditures, our department heads have been very good. We've had them go back, sharpen the pencil. But as Emily stated earlier, there's not a whole lot of capital outlay going on right now. We've got a spending freeze, and the freeze in itself, if it's something like Steve, Chief Duncan came to me today and had some things that, when we go out and fight fires and break equipment or wear out equipment, we've got to replace it. Same thing with Chief Mayberry, Craig. I mean, when we have certain things that depend on health and safety, we always have to have that equipment and those things ready for our men and women out there. The other thing that we know is we're going to have a pretty good bump with our liability insurance coming up. We're not really sure what that's going to be at this point, but it's going to be pretty substantial. And the last thing I'd leave you with was another unexpected payment that we're going to have to make, which is with our Climatech contract. Climatech made a presentation before this council nearly 3 years ago, I think it was January of 2018, and presented a package that included a lot of renovations for installing a solar system and putting in some split units within our buildings here for AC and some other things that they did as far as potentially decreasing our consumption of electricity. I did some quick analysis, and when you look at our Pacific Power bills from 2017, which is a full year prior to any of the installation, versus 2019, after it was installed, we saved $19,398, which is great. However, this project itself was a $1.6 million project, which was amortized out over, it's a loan, not a grant, but a loan, over a 20-year period. So in order for us to just basically break even, we need to save about $80,000 a year, minimum $80,000 a year. So that first year of saving $19,000 didn't really make me too giddy, because our first payment on this loan is coming due. Do you know what, Emma?
First installment is due December 22nd. First installment is due December 22nd.
So on December 22nd, there is a loan payment of $95,625 that has to be made. That is a $75,000 deficit. So instead of saving money, we're spending more money this year. I do know that I believe some of the solar was installed later in 2019 that might help offset a little bit more, but I'll just be upfront with you. I pulled this year's Pacific Power bills through July, and I believe we're up to about $105,000. Our typical year for the city of Weed with our power bill is between $180,000 to $200,000 a year for all of our facilities. Right now, like I said, we're at $105,000, and that was paying all the way through the end of July. So we know we still have 5 more months to go, and if you kind of, do the math, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think that $80,000 savings is going to happen again this year. So saying that, we've got a $75,000 difference that we weren't expecting on that as well. And so before you tonight is a resolution that it basically breaks down our adjustments that need to be done with our revenue and our adjustments with our expenditures. And I'm glad to take any questions at this point.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So with what you just said, what's the plan moving forward if we're at a deficit to paying a bill and the loan payment? Is that going to be the same loan payment every year, $95,625?
Correct.
So what's our strategy, business strategy for paying that if we have less funding coming in? And
that is something that I will be in discussion with the executives at Climatech. We still have not, since I've been here, and I'll just lay it out, we've had multiple issues, as Craig can tell you, John Pemberton, our building official, those are our 2 point of contacts as far as the system in itself. I kind of jokingly said, I'd only been here for about a month, and finally, or two, and I turned on my AC in my office, and within a couple of hours, the ceiling collapsed because of the drainage. And right in the middle of a Zoom call, that was fun. So, yeah, well, here comes the new guy, yeah. No, it was interesting. So we've had multiple technicians, probably half a dozen technicians come in and out trying to fix the drainage issues with the pumps on the split units and making sure that we get the condensation away from it. Some of them have been successful, some of them have not. The other thing that we're having, and you may have noticed a few moments ago, it was getting super warm in here.
Now it's cold.
Now it's cold. Yeah. We are having a lot of issues with the system to control. In my office alone, I have to get up probably 8 or 9 times a day to turn the AC back on. It just keeps kicking off. So I'll sit there and I have a pretty good gauge, and I'm like, okay, it's about 78 here now, and I'll get up, go turn it on, and it's pretty good. Ask my wife, I'm pretty good at that, and it's 78. And I have to get it back down because that's a little warm for me. But so we've had some of those issues. And to answer your question, Councilmember Green, they have recently sent us some paperwork trying to get us to sign off that everything is done, everything is fine, we're good to go. And I have not signed that paperwork, and I don't plan on signing it anytime soon. So
I'm looking at that. I mean, I know we have a loan with the California Energy Commission, but do we have a contract with Climate Tech through them that there's some provisions that if they're not sufficiently supporting us, we should have some type of response that we can use for that? We aren't caught in this 20 loan and can't do anything, because when I come into the city hall and I saw the things falling almost on employees, I'm like, whoa, what's happening here? And I forgot about this, but do we have some type of repercussion or something we can respond to?
We're going to be reviewing it. Craig dropped off at my office today the binder, which is about this thick, of the agreement with all the documents in it. But we do plan on doing some review. I'll probably be getting in contact with our city attorney as well as what our next steps need to be. But I just, as a whole, other cities that I've worked at, I've had these energy audit companies come in, and they're good at coming in and dazzling you and whining and dining and trying to get you to sign on to their program. And I've never have recommended one yet because I have not seen the actual data that's proved. In fact, prior to my arrival in my last city, they had an audit done on the system to put in new water meters. And the company that came back and basically said, prior to my arrival, with the new water meters, not the AMR system, but new water meters, that they could not save us the money that we needed to pay for the system. And I believe, if I'm right, Craig said that we had another one done in 2014, so about 4 years prior to this one, and another company came in and did an energy audit specifically tied into solar, and they pretty much said that they didn't feel like they could save us the savings that would need to be done to make this thing break even. The whole pretense of these systems that are going to be put into place is to, A, of course, be green, B, is, at minimum break even, and C, even possibly, make some money on the deal. Well, we're not seeing those things. I mean, other than being green, we're not really seeing those savings. So at this point, we're, myself and Craig and staff and John, we've had numerous discussions with the folks at Climate Tech and trying to get these things remedied, just the basics of getting these things remedied here at City Hall. And it's been a little bit of a struggle. Now, we'll say they've been responsive to us as far as our emails and so forth, but the actual work getting done is not where I would like it to be. So, but anyway, that's kind of off track, but just answers your question.
Well, it's not off track, because when I see a payment, our first payment being paid, we don't have it, and the company's not provided service, we should be able to do something. in our contract, something should be there that we can respond to the behavior that's not supportive of what the contract says.
Well,
We should be able to do something. I don't know what that something is. I'm not asking for an answer now.
Yeah.
But as long as you're looking to it, I'm saying, when I see a first payment and they aren't providing services, there's a problem here.
Yeah, and and I will be, like I said, probably following up with Mr. Winston over here and reviewing the contract and reviewing our loan document as well, because I believe there are some provisions that there has to be, the savings are supposed to be there, and I think they're supposed to be guaranteed. And I've seen other cities, college campuses that have taken these projects on, big cities, big campuses, and yeah, there's some savings there. When you've got a wastewater facility plant that is treating for over 100,000 residents, yeah, you could probably see some savings there by doing something like this, because your plant is running at a pretty good clip. But in a situation like ours, it's our footprint is so much smaller. So to capture that $80,000 a year that needs to be is pretty substantial. And unless they can pull a rabbit out of the hat pretty quick and show me that they can come up with an additional $60,000 in savings this year, in addition to the $19,000,
we're stuck.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're stuck, but we're definitely, I think, are going to pursue some options.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Originally, we did this, there was two systems, one for the sewer plant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that working at all?
Craig?
I mean, is it saving? I'm sure it's working. Is it saving us money?
It's saving, yes, and that's some of the dollars that Tim has in there, but not enough to pay the bill.
Okay. And we're definitely not saving here at City Hall.
I think there is, when you go look at the bills, I think there is a slight savings here at City Hall.
Right.
But again, I don't know if it's enough to quantify.
They must have presented us with an energy analysis. Is that correct?
Yes.
So is that fraudulent?
I haven't, like I said, Craig gave me it's literally about 8 inches thick of all the documents that were tied into this particular job. So I will be going back and looking at that.
Because my memory serves me is that the project was supposed to pay for itself in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was something in there about 17 years too, I believe. Yeah.
There's something in
I
there.
thought-
But that's what the song and dance that we were given.
Yeah. I think the loan was for 20, but to recoup everything was over 17 years. So at least to break even.
I'm going to sound damn naive, but I'm damn pissed right now because they talk about a song and dance. I was told that this was going to be, what we were going to actually be doing is making the same payment to the company that we had been making all along as far as what our expenses for power was. That if we were paying $9,500 a month, we were going to be, that we would make that payment because we were going to be in the black. And that's what I was told by, and I don't know as far as the quality of the work goes. This is another issue. I mean, we might want to, I think the same company that did some work up on the hill up there in your neighborhood, is it the same company? Different company. Okay, but it was explained to me. Do you recall what I'm talking about? It was Craig. This is what I was told, and it was a no-brainer. And I've been people have talked to me, confronted me with this. Well, how come? I said, oh, hey, this, and
now to find out that we are taking it, we are not getting our due. It's pretty disappointing. I would also maybe recommend that we look back at any of the videos that we were.
I have. I reviewed some of the presentations that were done back in 2018. So yeah, I learned some of the.
We thought it was a swinging deal.
Yeah. I mean, I would too if it were, holding true. So
our recourse, if this holds up, is just court.
I don't know if there's some sort of court or there could be an arbitration clause in there. A lot of times, Bob, a lot of these contracts, let's stay out of court, let's just go to an arbitrator, and that may be the recourse. Again, I will come back with a report for you to make that decision.
We could pile them out on the street and tell them they can come get them.
Yeah, well, it's been, like I said.
But that wouldn't work out.
When I got here, I questioned staff about it, and they were, at that time, a little suspect of if this thing was actually going to save us the amount that was promised us. And then after pulling the utility bills and doing some analysis, again, I say there may have been, I think, one of the solar panels or set of the solar panels put in toward the middle or so of 19 that might help this next year, but I can't see it saving us $80,000. And that's, like I said, when you look out over that 20-year time period, that's what it's going to take to pay this thing off every.
And it should have been more. That's the kind of way, that's what, at least when I was listening, that's what I heard.
Sure.
I'm pretty good at what I hear most of the time.
Well, and watching the meeting, it was presented as, ABC, and you will get to XYZ, and everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's happy.
We missed XY.
Yeah, there's a lot. So anyway, go ahead.
Tim, have you seen anything that kind of shines some light on that we're taking advantage of?
I haven't done enough analysis to say that at this point. I mean, I'm hoping, and Craig and I were talking about that today. We would have both, even though, we've had the issues and the condensation and ceilings falling in, I would have been ecstatic if we had saved $80,000.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, because that's another load off of us that we won't have to worry about, because we got enough on our plate right now. But now that we've got this bit of a dilemma in front of us, but it's something, like I said, I'm going to address with the folks at Climate Tech. Again, I got, I believe, an email last week from them asking me to sign off saying, job complete, thank you. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that until we get some answers.
By approving this resolution, do we impact that part of the budget revision?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay. Anything?
That's all I have, unless you have questions for Emily.
I'm like right in the path. I'm like freezing. I know.
The hairs on my arm are standing straight up, and that's an indication.
No other questions?
Don't turn it off yet.
No, it's totally fine. I'm gonna move over and I'll be great.
So Emily, I have a question.
Well, it's not
For Emily.
rainforest in here,
For
so
Emily.
that's a good sign.
Okay, Emily,
I have a
Councilmember Green.
question.
Yeah.
Per our initial discussion when you first came into office, what we've had, what's been shared, do you feel comfortable and supported by implementing the budget with the changes going for next year? Is there anything that you need that hasn't been said, you don't feel comfortable saying, you feel comfortable saying? Do you feel supported?
Most definitely. Okay. Most definitely. We're using the system that we're paying for. We're actually, I know, shocker.
She's talking about the software.
I'm talking about the software, not these. The software, we're actually trying to use the software, using it, being able to give more updated reports to our department heads so that they know. I know when they come and say, hey, do I have budget? And I'm like, oh, well, let me go look. I can easily pull it up. I can provide reports to people who have given us deposits. So we're definitely getting there. We still have a road ahead of us because we kind of took really archaic data information, just kind of shoved it into a different system and didn't clean it up along the way. But yeah, this is a needed, and it was one of our audit findings. So we are trying to strive forward to make sure that we are addressing those.
Well, the auditor said that in the last reports I've been in the last 8 years, they said, oh, everything's up to date, everything's fine. And it wasn't, because a few of us were asking for specifics for a month and we weren't giving it. So I hope that we are giving you the right information. If you need more staff, we need to look some way to support that, because I know doing 3 positions as a director, that's tough. So I hope you feel honestly that you can be supported. If you need support, you need to let us know, and we need to find a way to do that.
I am running a little ragged, but I'll be honest. Things aren't getting done as timely or as quickly as I would like. But right now, this is our options, and this is what needs to be done for this city in the best possible way we can right now.
Well, when Ken and I met with you and the auditor, he said it could take you 2 to 3 years to clean that up.
And that's still fully staffed, so.
Well, and I even asked him at the time, could we hire somebody to do that, to help you with that? And he said, no.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of job that you would want somebody else to do, it's something you need to do, so.
Yeah, so we are getting there.
2 to 3 years could be the timeline on when she's finished with all that, right?
But I wonder
Yeah.
if that's good support for supporting 3 positions and 1 director and an employee. We gotta look at that. I mean, is that, even though he says yes, is that the right thing to do, support?
We have brought in some part-time help, minimum wage, just to help her offset during the month as far as our billing system goes and those type of things that have given her a little bit of relief, but that's just been over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So because I see the need to, because we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
We have to empower you to not fail, but to be good.
And I feel like if I really was like, okay, I'm at a crossroads, like I can't do all of this, I need help. I feel comfortable coming and saying, hey, I need help. Like this, there's just no other way about it. But right now, I think this is our best solution to get the city through these times and still get stuff accomplished. And we're plugging away at it.
And honestly, in the last 8 years, I've seen where money has gone, and there's money that we can find somewhere to support a position to help if it's needed, if you come to that point. I know there is. I won't agree with what I've seen in the last 8 years when things were overstaffed and nothing was being done.
Yeah.
So we just got to be honest about, and I said truthful and factual. If it's not being taken care of, I'm glad you feel comfortable. Please come and let us look at opportunities, because it shouldn't take 2 to 3 years. It might on the regular, but I don't think we can afford
Well,
that.
he said that at the regular time.
At full staff.
And it's, yeah.
Right. So we're ticking away at stuff. We're getting there. We're getting there.
But I do think by us actually utilizing the software that we have in place and plugging it in and making it part of the culture for our staff, I think that's going to be helpful on down the line too. So.
Yeah.
So we had it for 2 years and wasn't implementing it 100%.
Correct.
Okay, that's all, just truthful.
Yeah. I mean, I did 2 years of reconciliations in the system when I first got here, just to get us caught up. I mean, that's
I'm
not
sorry you
using
came
the
to that
system.
decision, because as a part of the council, we should have been able to see that and redirect that, because that's not important. That's not the way it should have happened.
We did see it.
We did.
We did see it.
But we're working towards it. Everybody's pulling together and we're making strides. So
100% support, 100% support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring her chocolate cake.
She has lots of sweets at home, I heard her at the picnic.
Okay, never mind.
I move to approve the resolution number 22-2020 by title only.
I second.
No, 23.
Oh,
Resolution 23.
2320.
Is it 23-2020?
Yeah, we're on B.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I stand corrected.
You don't have to talk again?
No, I didn't.
Who seconded?
Bob,
I second.
Bob seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 23-2020. All in favor?
Excuse me, Ms. Mayor, I think, before we do this, I wanted, just for the public, I think that we were, right before our list here, so what we're actually doing is we're decreasing the estimated revenue by $414,000 and reducing the appropriations by $637,000.
Correct.
Okay, I just, as far as a number for the public to understand what we are cutting, what we have to cut back. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Just pass the motion.
yeah.
Yeah.
All in
I
favor?
Again, am.
Ms. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 23-2020, amending the city's 2020-2021 fiscal year budget.
I have a question. The motion is already on the floor, so we just have to pass it. He already made the motion.
Yeah, I already thought he did, and you seconded it.
So we don't have to read it.
Oh, I thought it was just title only.
We haven't even passed that. He just introduced it as.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, so hang on.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's been moved
All
and
I have is a
seconded.
placeholder on a
Sandy?
regular agenda.
Sandy, we're right? Moved and seconded to approve resolution
I move that we adopt
2320.
resolution number 2320, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Weed, amending the city's 2021 fiscal year budget.
I second.
Thank you, Tim. We have a motion on the floor, everyone.
Nope, that was it. That was, yeah,
So
read
are you
correctly.
introducing it?
No, that was read correctly, right,
We
Tim?
read it correctly,
Yeah.
the resolution.
Okay.
So it has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2320. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I am just rough today.
I know, it's a rough day. Do you want to say yes to this?
Yes.
Okay, any opposed? No, okay.
I think your iPad is on top of it because everybody got paper copies.
Yeah, they're here. There's a couple of, that was it.
I quit today.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
So we don't have a second one on this, right? We're good?
No.
Okay. Council will consider determining the city's position 01 resolution to be voted on at the League of California Cities.
All we do is we always follow what they suggest as League of Cities unless someone's opposed to it.
Essentially, real quickly, I can tell you what's going on. The city of Cerrito has putting forth a resolution to the California League of Cities to essentially put pressures on our legislators to have these folks who want to go on social media, your Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, and I think what it boils down to is folks that are going on there and saying that there's going to be a riot or a rally or whatever, and then Justin's guys have to show up, and then there's nothing there. It was just based on, false information and those type of things, just from the gist of what they're doing. So what they're trying to do is hold the social media companies accountable as well as the folks that are doing these type of things. So if I kind of read it right, I believe that's what they're upset about is wasting city resources. So.
Well, and I would think using social media if everybody does show up.
Yes. Yeah, if you're using social media to say, show up at the Abner Weed Plaza, we're going to, do some damage, and they do damage, and hold them accountable. And so they're just trying to, I don't know. I mean, we have First Amendment laws in our country as well, but I think this is kind of a step in that direction because it does waste a lot of resources. I personally have seen it too, where social media sites where people have said, we're going to do, we're going to show up and do this, or they're saying that if you go to this place, this particular group is getting ready to fight this particular group, and when you show up, there's nobody there, and Justin's got 4 officers waiting, and nothing's happening. It's just
What they're doing some of the
yeah. See, it's wasting valuable resources. Kind of in a nutshell.
I suggest that we should vote to support the League of Cities recommendation.
I will second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to vote to approve the League of Cities recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Consent agenda.
Are we there right now?
We are.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
You act like we got there quickly.
No. Thought we get more on the agenda.
You making a motion?
I will
Sure,
make
I'll make a motion, we
oh,
approve the consent agenda as printed.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Nothing was removed. Staff reports. Justin?
We were gonna take that.
I wasn't. I know you're good, but what's been happening?
Always has something.
Just to let you guys know, we are helping out with the, as well as fire, but our staff is helping out with the Slater Fire and Happy Camp. I have 2 officers over there now, several scheduled throughout, at least through Monday at this point. They call we try to adjust the schedule even with the furloughs to allow for officers to still go over and help out with that.
Can
That's all I have.
you share their duties, what they're helping with, just so people know that are listening?
Well, it depends on what's needed at the time, evacuations, but also patrols for evacuated neighborhoods for possible looters or things like that. It's up to incident command. For those that aren't aware, the fire went, as of this morning, had jumped overnight from 40,000 acres to 120,000 acres and was 0% contained as of this morning.
And at the Oregon border, I heard.
It was across the border.
Yeah, it's across the border.
It's moving in all directions depending on the wind, which keeps changing. But the entire Klamath River corridor is in jeopardy at this point. So.
Thank you. Steve? Where, on the screen? From your iPad?
My phone. Yes,
Jeremy's gonna make that happen?
we're trying it. He showed me.
Teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
But then you'll be out of a job, Jeremy.
No.
I don't think so. No, I don't.
We'll have Steve doing that.
Teach me the more technical stuff, but I'm not gonna learn.
You'll have to show us all.
Can we get it on our screen?
8913.
There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
there's your phone.
Here's my phone.
Don't send Steve a text.
There we are.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Hang on a second.
That's your camera.
Gallery. not the-
Yeah.
I know. Why is it on that? He has to help me. No, it worked a minute ago. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Hang on a second. Right there. Okay, so as of last meeting, last month, we responded to 230 calls for service, 9 fires, 5 TCs, and 216 EMS calls. This is responded to a vegetation fire, Black Butte, by the railroad tracks. We believe it was started by the railroad, but we can't confirm that. It's a CAL FIRE incident, so. We did have just Brian and I there, so if you're looking out to hand out some help for anybody who could use some help, I'll take that help. As Brian and I responded to that with some CAL FIRE units. We were first on the scene. And we had to wait for a train before we could put the fire out because we had to go over the railroad tracks. And then we had to stop all the trains, so. We also responded, that's all the people on the mountain helping the hand crew. This is a fire in Lake Shastina, a house fire. We responded to this. So the first one was with engine 1212, and we're actually getting paid by CAL FIRE for that because we were on there for over 3 hours. This one, same thing. Just Jack, who is a volunteer, and I responded with 1211, and we were in charge of just the vegetation. Everybody else was on the house fire. So that's Jack right there, our new guy. And we're putting out the a vegetation fire just with me and him.
That's Jack that the old ladies like.
Yeah. That's the house that caught on fire. Here's all the units that went. Not all of them, but most of them. There's our truck. And again, we're getting paid by CAL FIRE for that unit. And then this is, I think it was Tuesday, I made the decision to send 1210 to Happy Camp. It'd be Brian, Carter, Jack, and then we got a volunteer from Hammond Ranch, so because you have to have 3 people. They responded to Happy Camp. This is what they came across. They were in charge of structure protection. Now, Brian told me that they saved so many houses, he doesn't even know how many they saved. Just their engine, just our engine. We're also getting paid for that fire. Here's one house they saved. It's actually 2, but there's one there and one behind it. But that was the fire, and then they went behind and put the fire out.
That was Chastina?
No, that's us.
No,
that's in Happy
Camp.
Camp.
Oh.
That's our.
Over 150 structures.
Yeah. And then that's so. I just wanted to show you those pictures. Yeah, I know. So we did some good there. We did save some houses. Now, we had to bring the engine back because Brian got really ill and started vomiting, and he thinks he has the flu, so the engine it's back now as of last night, so. I'll also be attending the, and we did have a major TC on the highway. We had to use the jaws to cut a lady out of the vehicle.
Is that Louis Road?
Yeah. Yep.
When was that?
I don't know the exact date, but it's a couple weeks ago. And then I'm going to be attending the EMS World Expo this year. Usually you go to Las Vegas to attend it, but we're doing it virtual.
In your living room?
For the first time ever. It's to get CEs to keep my paramedic. And I'm actually invited to join a focus group for the use of Narcan with some physicians to talk about how we use it in the field. So
good.
That'll be Monday and Tuesday. So that's my report.
Cool.
Any questions?
Thanks.
I like that, very good.
I have a question for you. Is you or the department able to do inspections? I know that you come and you look at our fire extinguishers and that stuff, but Ansel systems, and you guys can do all that?
Yeah.
So.
We did your building down there when it first
Yeah,
opened.
but we just got a bill from the guy from Reading that came and looked at our system, and we're like, why?
That's because they look at it every year.
But why aren't we having, I'd rather pay you to do it.
Can't, no.
You can't do that.
I can't do the commercial.
Oh, okay.
No,
Well,
they-
that's not a commercial kitchen.
Yes, it is.
It's Sun's, it's not.
Oh, at Sun's? I thought you meant at the chamber.
That one
No,
is,
I believe it's still classified as a commercial kitchen.
because it has the Ansel
Yeah.
system.
And
Okay.
they have to be certified to inspect it.
Well, that's what, I just was like, I'd rather
Yeah.
give the money to our
Yeah.
people here than.
Yeah, we can't do that. At least they're doing it. That's
Right.
good.
Well, we haven't used the place since this last inspection.
Craig, it's your turn.
I got no fancy pictures.
You don't even have to stand up.
I don't have any.
You still got a flip phone.
You want me to give your report? The Vista Drive project has been submitted back to the EDA today. We had a phone call from Toby. He will present next Wednesday, and we should know if additional funds will be received the following Wednesday.
Thank you, Craig.
Oh, wait, what about, North Davis?
Davis, we met with the contractor and the engineer. He's going to start paving the end of September, 1st of October. It'll be 2 days, he'll be done.
Cool. And did we have any warning on Caltrans showing up and digging up the middle of the road? It's their road.
Yes,
Okay.
they talked to Chris before they came.
This morning?
And what did they do with the grindings?
Put it behind your house.
I want them. They don't put my house, well, I'd take them behind my house. They don't do that anymore though, right? Because the community center would have liked them.
No, they're considered a hazardous material.
What?
It's asphalt, you can't do it. Reaches into the groundwater.
So who uses them?
Where do they put them?
Recycled,
Oh,
Oh, to fill in holes and stuff, huh?
and it run back through the asphalt plant. It's also saving on aggregate, because we have a statewide shortage of aggregate.
so do you have to pay somebody to recycle it?
Yeah, it goes back to the plant itself, and they just redo it, add less oil and different rocks and some jobs.
And that's all included in the bid?
Yeah, they put them on lower traveled roads.
Thanks.
Huh. Emily, you don't have anything to say, do you?
Nope.
You already said it.
Yep.
Yep. Sandy?
Just a reminder, I'll be on vacation next week, so I know a lot of people for these videos for the meetings want to know when they'll be posted. That will be delayed until I return the following week.
Where are you going?
So don't call staff and ask when the video will be available.
Monday morning
Get a
at,
phone.
Monday morning at 8?
Well, enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Tim, you got something to say, I can tell.
Yeah, I got a few things this month. It's not too late. Quickly, I'd like to say big kudos to Chief Mayberry and Chief Duncan. I think this kind of shows, a lot of people, sometimes you get pushback about sending our troops to another war. But in this instance, this kind of shows why we do those things, because there may be a time and day where Steve and Justin will be, asking exactly.
No, there was.
Yes.
There was. You just weren't here. Yeah.
There was in 2014.
Right.
September 16th, 2014.
I understand that all too well. I've been in cities where that's happened, and it's
15th.
it's a scary feeling, but it's a good feeling knowing that you've got other cavalries coming in to help you out there with fighting, especially fighting these fires. Real quick, an update for Mr. Fine regarding Canna Trading. As you know, you gave him a 90-day extension. He and I have been in contact pretty much on a weekly basis, and yesterday he sent this to me, and the only reason why it's on salmon paper is because I didn't call down and ask if the late notices were in the copier. So, but he sent me this. It is his management contract that he has with this company called Perfect Union, and it breaks it all down with the staff that's going to be coming down to set up the store, their point of sales, all the stuff that's going to be handled, their security system. It's all within here. I can forward this to you probably tomorrow with my 5 for Friday, just to kind of let you take a look at it. It was 70 pages long, so, but it kind of gives me an indication that he is very serious about getting the store up and running as requested by this body. Real quick also, to hop on Public Works, we are getting ready to implement software there. It's called iWorks. And it's going to be very instrumental in helping us track our jobs in public works. One of the things that kind of make it necessary, especially when you're talking about tracking for FEMA reimbursables, is tracking equipment and manpower and those type of things, and we can utilize this. We can also utilize it for mapping of job location, notes, emails, scheduling, all types of things that we can do. We can make it customizable to help fit that, and we're getting ready. I think Chris and Craig are already involved in some online training for that, which is going to be very helpful. One last thing I wanted to mention is that we sent in today our CARES Act. What do they call that today? We called it our CRF. The city is basically going to receive, hopefully soon, $50,000 in CARES Act funding to help offset some of our cost as a result of revenue loss with COVID. We had to present some actual cost involved, and some of it had to deal with our public safety personnel, some of it had to deal with our unemployment costs going up because of this. So that's good. That's going to help us, a small percentage. Not sure when we're going to get all of the funding, but we submitted.
We've gotten some.
Yeah, it's coming in bits and pieces, but it's hopefully going to be a total of like say $50,000.
Is all that included in this?
No, not at this one. The thing that makes it very difficult right now in the budget process is because of the coronavirus, with what's going on with the feds and the state, and what you saw with Quentin a few moments ago. I mean, it's a moving, typically these things, they roll out, they're very cyclical, but COVID has changed all that as well. So it makes it a little bit difficult, but we don't always, as he stated earlier, everybody got excited about this micro enterprise stuff, and then he's like, yeah, the state's working on 2018 right now. And so it kind of deflates you a little bit, but it kind of shows that you can't always count on that funding to be there right at that time. So we try to do a good job, but kudos to staff and Emily getting those reports put in. And also big kudos to Sandy. She's been very, very helpful, especially with this EDA project with the Vista Drive. I know she and Craig and myself, meet quite often and trying to, especially coming up with the documentation to close that gap, which I've been told by a reliable source that we have a significant chance of receiving some of that funding to help close that gap and make this project a reality. So anyway, but we should know probably in 2 or 3 weeks.
23rd, we're hoping to know.
Yeah, so by the 23rd, we should have an answer back to you guys as far as,
We get Vista, and we get Loves in, a lot of that money goes to the state. Mine in their pocket, too.
yeah, but luckily for us, there is some COVID money that the feds have gotten that they need to spend, and we are waving our flag high. So, and that's all I have.
Thanks. Hey, Bob, you got anything?
I did in closed session.
Okay. I accept that as an answer.
No, wait, I have something for you. I just have.
Oh, so we need to adjourn to closed session?
Yes.
I make a motion, we adjourn, Ms. Mayor?
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second that.
Without a microphone on, thank you, Ken, for seconding
I'll
that.
second that.
It's
for
been
the
moved and
record.
seconded, we're going to closed session. Are we going to the conference room so Jeremy can clean up? It's my favorite part.